Cultural fit or cultural due diligence can be complex to assess. Again, in the heat of the transaction, it is easy to overlook some fundamental differences in values or approach that will either stop the transaction before completion or will make cultural alignment very difficult to achieve post-merger. It is rare for two organisations to have completely compatible cultures, but to quote Peter Drucker, culture eats strategy for breakfast. The impact of misaligned cultures can be huge and costly. There are many examples of organisations that years after a merger still operate as two different organisations with a them and us culture. I've worked for some. The question is, how do you assess culture? It's difficult enough to define in your own organisation, let alone assess in another one. For a small organisation, it's a matter of considering the values and principles of the organisation, how these have been exhibited in its dealings with clients, staff, stakeholders and others, and determining if your organisation would have likely taken the same actions. There are questionnaires and other tools you can use. Another way to assess culture is to ask stakeholders such as clients or funders, even suppliers who know both organisations well and are able to give their opinion. For larger organisations, it is worth asking for an independent assessment by specialists, organisational psychologists, who can assess and compare the culture of the two organisations. We've heard stories of mergers stalling because the organisation served different types of biscuits in the staff room. One provided cream biscuits, the other plain. Christmas parties and leave, all of these traditions we don't think about can make a huge impact. Don't underestimate the impact of culture. As leaders of a merger, it's also worth inoculating everyone in regard to the impact of change and culture they may have to absorb. That is, if you warn the board and the staff in advance that they will have to give up some elements of the culture, practices or traditions that we hold dear in order to get this merger to happen, then they will be ready for when these issues arise and more likely to look at them objectively and as reasonable trade-off to the benefits to come.